Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, a controversial hope. Our correspondent in Kigali tours the lodgings prepared by the Rwandan government to host migrants that the UK plans on shipping over. First deportations that could start later this year. Also, black market money traders are rounded up in crackdowns in Zimbabwe as authorities desperately try to stop the slide of its newly introduced ZiG, the country's fourth currency, inside a decade. And rap is growing in its popularity in Egypt. And although the scene is still overwhelmingly dominated by men, women are increasingly amongst the voices of expression within the genre. But first to Rwanda, where our team has headed into the headquarters earmarked to host hundreds of migrants deported from the UK, the first of whom could arrive there within just a few months. Now, the tour was offered just days after the British government approved a law that allows the controversial policy to move forward after years of legal obstacles and international criticism. Kigali says it has been preparing to deliver on its end of the multi-million euro deal for years. Clement de Roma reports from the Hope Hostel.
Hundreds of migrants could finally arrive on the Rwandan hills this summer. Local authorities highlight the accommodations awaiting asylum seekers and have given France 24 a rare access to one of the hotels, the Hope Hostel, where the first hundreds of refugees could be sent. 50 rooms have been ready for 2 years now, meticulously maintained empty for the past 600 days. The managers have been waiting and were eager to show our cameras their clean rooms, shared areas to eat, work and even pray. The Rwandan government here with these infrastructures wants to answer concerns about the safety and comfort of refugees, showing that everything is already ready.
So we are considered a human being. They will feel like at home, they will be safe, and they will get different opportunities, not only in our Hope Hostel, even in the different corner of the country. It is in that reason we are being ready since June 2022.
For the past 2 years, Kigali has been preparing to host migrants, thanks in part to the £290 million already committed by the British government through its migrant scheme. An entire estate with houses has also been constructed to facilitate the newcomers' integration into society. Kigali promises hundreds of available accommodations and says it will respect conditions stipulated by the new British law, including providing legal assistance for refugees. However, the safety of asylum seekers in Rwanda remains in doubt by numerous NGOs and opponents, some in exile, who highlight the lack of freedom of expression, but also the lack of job opportunities in the country.
Clement de Roma there for us in Kigali. Now, on Wednesday, Kenyan Emergency Services said that they'd recovered at least 10 bodies of victims killed in the most recent flash floods to have inundated the Kenyan capital. The extreme downpours have lashed the city for the last few weeks and have forced people to abandon vehicles and homes, led to the closure of roads and railways, and triggered a series of dramatic rescues by aid organizations and authorities who have been described as being overwhelmed. The whole country is facing the prospect of heavy rain until May as a result of changing weather patterns that meteorologists have blamed squarely on climate change. Zimbabwe is trying to break the decline of its newly introduced gold-backed currency by cracking down on black market money traders. The ZiG appeared on the scene earlier this month, and although the official exchange rate is 13 ZiG to the dollar, on the black market it's going for 20 to the dollar. Nyasha Chingonu tells us more.
Zimbabwean authorities have launched a blitz on foreign currency dealers who have been operating illegally on the streets of Harare. This morning, we saw dozens of foreign currency dealers filing into court for a bail ruling. The Zimbabwean government early this month replaced the Zimbabwean dollar with the ZiG. The foreign currency dealers were rounded up by police working with Central Bank Financial Intelligence Unit. They are accused of spiking the rate of the newly introduced Zimbabwe currency, the Zimbabwe gold, on the black market. The ZiG, since its launch, has been appreciating in value, but economic analysts say the blitz is not enough.
The question is, should they be policing legislation? No. I think for currency, it's a matter of confidence. People need to be confident in that currency. They also need sustained stability in order for them to accept it.
The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe next week on Tuesday will introduce banknotes and coins with the hope that finally Zimbabwe will have a stronger local currency following years of inflation and economic downturn.
Nyasha Chingonu there in Harare. Now, Guinea-Bissau's long heavily subsidised the cost of rice, but consumers have been struggling since this support was pulled last week. The government says it can no longer keep up with the rate of inflation on international markets. Our regional correspondent Sam Bradpeace talks us through from Dakar.
A 50-kilogram bag of broken rice now sells for about €34 in Guinea-Bissau, a full 30% more than it did last Friday. This price hike comes as the government has effectively withdrawn subsidies aimed at protecting consumers in what is one of the poorest countries on earth. The news has sent shockwaves through Guinea-Bissau, as my colleague found out when he visited Bandim Market right in the heart of the capital.
The government needs to take pity on women running the household. We're the ones who will have to put up with all the consequences. Look around. These are enormous difficulties. With the increase in rice prices, everyone is angry. They should come to an arrangement with sellers to lower the price.
We're calling on the authorities to do everything possible to decrease the price of rice. Imagine if you have a big family. A 50-kilogram bag will only last you a few days. On top of this, it now costs 24,000 francs. That's too much. The government should show mercy.
In the countryside, the situation could get even worse. Traditionally, rural communities have often traded cashew nuts in exchange for rice. 2 50-kilogram bags of cashew nuts could fetch you 1 50-kilogram bag of rice. But now that rice has become more valuable, and given that the cashew crop isn't selling well on international markets, that kind of exchange is only going to become more difficult.
The Democratic Republic of Congo has taken extreme measures in its scramble to gain the upper hand against rebel militia fighting in the east. It recently lifted a moratorium on capital punishment that had been in place for 20 years. The Justice Ministry hopes that this will help stem high rates of desertion from its army, but critics say the measure is a dangerous addition to the country's penal system. Our team reports.
The announcement is still causing a stir in Kinshasa. The government lifted a long-standing moratorium on the death penalty, according to a ministerial memo dated March the 14th. Congo's authorities say they want to rid the army of traitors, as the east of the country is in the grips of a rebellion by the M23 group, which is backed by Rwanda.
I'm for the death penalty. Why? Because the country is being betrayed at the highest level.
Human dignity is sacred. Mr. Tshisekedi simply wants to lead us into dictatorship.
Human rights organizations have denounced the lifting of the moratorium and called for it to be cancelled. The Catholic Church is also up in arms against the idea of executions. For Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo, the death penalty is incompatible with fundamental law and the sacred principle of life, but it's also dangerous to apply in Congo, he says.
Nous avons entendu le chef de l'État lui-même dire la justice.
We have heard the head of state himself say that justice in the Congo is ill. Applying the death penalty means putting this instrument in the hands of an ill justice system. And an ill justice system, how is it going to objectively and calmly apply a decision as serious as taking the life of a human being?
Congo placed a moratorium on the death penalty in 2003, but the courts continued to hand down death sentences, which were then commuted to life imprisonment. The ruling political coalition points out that the death penalty was never abolished and exists in Congolese law to punish the worst crimes.
The country, in its sovereignty, has the right to take measures that it considers important in a context such as this, to try to dissuade those who attempted to betray, believing that tomorrow they will be forgiven, they will return to business.
In the city of Goma, in the east of the country, 11 soldiers are currently facing the death penalty. Congo's public prosecutor has accused them of fleeing the front. If the sentence is handed down, Congo could carry out its first executions in more than 20 years.
And finally, rap is gaining a growing following in Egypt. And although the scene is still overwhelmingly dominated by men, women are increasingly amongst the voices choosing to express themselves out loud and proud through the genre. Our Clem Bala has more.
In the gardens of this Cairo university, 21-year-old Doreen spits her bars.
Rap gives me a space to express myself freely. There's a sense of freedom in the lyrics of rap. There's freedom overall.
The young rapper is a native of Alexandria, a city that's produced most of the country's hip-hop stars. In her latest album, Kawabes, Nightmares in Arabic, Doreen talks about the ordeals she went through following breakups. But she doesn't only rap about her personal life, she also tackles gender issues, a real problem in the patriarchal Egyptian society.
I feel that maybe they don't take us seriously, perhaps assuming that as women, we don't encounter significant challenges. However, it's quite the opposite. Women often face twice the obstacles that men do. If your problem as a guy is struggling to make ends meet, we girls are facing harassment generally in life.
Fatih is also a rapper. She says the women trying to make it on the up-and-coming scene get constant backlash from men.
We get criticized a lot. We get insulted. They make fun of us. I really hope that changes. I'm not talking about myself, but a lot of girls get affected by that criticism. They wonder why they're insulting and making fun of us.
Like many other sectors in Egypt, the rap scene is still very male-dominated. Doreen and Fatih are some of the pioneers taking down the status quo and fighting for a piece of the action.
Good on you, Fatih. Well, that is all we have time for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us, though, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.
Join us on France 24 for a crucial and exciting election season. In June of this year, citizens from the EU's 27 member states will be asked to choose the next European Parliament made up of 720 MEPs. France 24's Talking Europe will bring you a series of special programs. We'll look at the political powerhouses in the EU and also talk about groups of countries and regions. We'll have debates for you with MEPs from different political parties, and we'll look at the key issues of our day that cut across national borders. Talking Europe takes you to the heart of the EU election campaign.
Talking Europe on France 24 and France24.com.